And hello, Hearts of Oak. Thanks so much for joining us once again on another news review. And we have David Vance back with us once again. David, thanks so much for your time today, as always.
As always, a pleasure, Peter, to be with you.
It's good. And I see you in the bright Northern Irish sunlight, and
Yeah.
possibly you're the next selection for the Pope. I think the Lord is saying something.
The sun always shines on the righteous, and what can I say?
Let's move off that and let's go on to reform. Lots been happening
Mm.
with reform, and I know you used the term "goat for Nigel," not the greatest of all time, just in case.
Mm.
I'll just
Judas
correct.
goat, yeah,
The
yeah.
Judas goat, not the greatest of all time, just in case our US viewers are a little bit perplexed. But here's a clip of Nigel Farage on a statement he used yesterday. We're doing this Friday, and then we'll look at actually what Rupert Lowe has done also. But let's start with Nigel.
We will demand, this government does the same, that there is a minister for deportations. It will be part of the Home Office, but it'll be a separate department within it. We will need to recruit new people, as much of the evidence is that those that currently work in the Home Office would willfully obstruct policy if we won the next general election. But somebody somewhere in government needs to be held accountable. And you've only got to go back 20 years to the last Labour government, and they were deporting tens of thousands of people a year who were here illegally. When Blunkett was Home Secretary, if you came illegally, you didn't touch the sides. You were sent back. So what I'm calling for isn't actually anything particularly radical. It's actually just common sense. It's what most countries in the world do. You want to go and live there, you want to go and settle there, you have to meet a set of criteria. And that country chooses.
Well, maybe Nigel's got his mojo, and let me just share this screen, and then we'll take them together. And that is Rupert Lowe. I've tabled an early day motion in the Commons on the importance of implementing a mass deportation scheme for every illegal immigrant or migrant in the UK. Any MP can add their name to show support. All have been emailed with details. I hope to receive cross-party backing. Let's see. You'd of course expect reform to back such a thing, but so yeah. What are your thoughts? There are a number of issues here in play. The immigration statement itself, but also the issue with Rupert actually just doing it instead of Nigel talking about it.
Well, you're right, Peter. Yeah, I mean, there's so much to unpack here, and of course, there's also the issue of Katie Hopkins having rallied to the cause as well. So I'd like to go through all of that if I can,
You
because
can't, yeah, what he's her monster that she likes or something weird.
yeah. Katie's a great one for using this analogy. I am the monster that you made. She did that. She did an interview with Ian Hislop from Private Eye years ago, and she used that terminology. I understand that. And she's now suggesting that Nigel is the monster that we should best align with. So to go back to your original thing, Nigel's speech, first of all, well, it's an interesting speech. I noticed that the Minister of his deportation plan will be announced after the May 1st elections. It's interesting, isn't it? After the elections. Don't worry about it. Just vote for us and then we'll tell you what we're going to do. So there's that. In the second instance, you could have played a speech Nigel gave a couple of months ago where he said that, look, it's just impossible to have mass deportations. So which Nigel do we go with then, Peter, would be my stance. And, and as for Rupert Lowe, I 100% support the early day motion that Rupert put down. I've read it. There's not a word in it I could disagree with. I wonder, I actually spoke with Rupert yesterday, and he said, how many people do you think will sign this? And I said, none. And he says, no, you're wrong. There'll be one. And he said, because that's me, he says. Yeah, so that's fair enough. Yeah, that's right. But will the Reform MPs sign it or not? It's a very good point, very good early day motion. And we'll see the colour of Nigel Farage's money, Peter. They should all sign it, all four of them. But will they? So I don't know. I suspect that my problem is that as oftentimes I find myself on the outside of these things, I want Reform to do well in the local council elections, and I want them to win Runcorn. I want that because I despise the uni party that we have at the moment. So that would be a good thing. But we have to be careful we don't swap, to paraphrase Katie, one monster for another monster. I'm very concerned about that. So yeah, by all means, if you want to go and vote for Reform in a week's time, please do that, and I hope they'll do well. But that's not a carte blanche then to become government. Nigel's grandiose, he's going to have a minister for deportations and all that. I mean, there's a lot of talk there. It contradicts what he said a couple of months ago. So I got issues in that. I've also got an issue with Katie Hopkins jumping on this one at this moment in time. I would have said to Katie, who I was friendly with, like choose your moment, Katie. Yes, like me, I've done a podcast saying vote for Reform on the 1st of May. So I'm not in a different place there. But I'm not aligning with monsters. Sorry, Katie Hopkins, and you shouldn't either. You should know better that we need to see exactly where Nigel Farage and Zia Yusuf and Richard Tice lead this Reform Party. I have no confidence in them. I love the members of the party. They're great people. But the leadership, Peter, is very problematical to me in everything they've said and done. And I still go back to Elon Musk's words on the 5th of January. Nigel Farage fit to lead the party? I'm not sure that he is, but I know that's a modern heresy. So I'll speak it. I agree with Elon Musk, and I still do.
Well, let me bring up the front page of The Economist. And you talked about the uni party. And first of all, we had a Nigel Dahl, which who knows if that was real or not. And now we have on the front page of the front cover of The Economist, which is a left legacy media rag. And here, the man Britain cannot ignore. Again, it seems to be part of the uni party whenever the legacy media hated him a couple of years ago, but now are falling over themselves to laud him. A marked change. And you wonder what's behind that.
Well, that's really interesting. I hadn't seen that, Peter, the cover of The Economist. And I'm a long-term critic of The Economist, which is a globalist rag. The Economist is the thinking man's establishment rag, right? That's what it is. Once upon a time, about 40 years, it was relevant. It's not relevant anymore, apart from understanding what the blob wants. So I hadn't seen that. It's fascinating what you've shown me. And I think it's I'm worried that Reform will be turned into just a turquoise part of the uni party. You're going to have the red, the blue, and the turquoise. And it's all the same. And this way, the globalists get what they want, because whatever horse wins the race, they win, if you follow me. So that's why I'm much more held back and sort of not just rushing in to say, Reform's the be all and end all. I look at Rupert Lowe's consistency, and I look at Nigel Farage's inconsistency, and I think there's a big difference here. And I don't know what the future holds for, Rupert Lowe or Ben Habib, or maybe something new might or might not come along. I don't know. But I would sort of be just minded to restrain my enthusiasm for the monster, because maybe we might want to see if something better can come along. And if Nigel gets too much power, and if the Economist are backing him, I mean, what next? A Daily Mail headline supporting our Nige is the man to do it for Britain. The Sun will run a headline, it's Nigel what won it for Britain. People need to understand when you're being manipulated. And that's the lesson of the past 5 years is just put your spidey senses on. That's all. I'm not saying Nigel Farage doesn't say some sensible things, but he talks some very curious things as well. And he is on record saying he would not have mass deportation. So I go back. Which version of Nigel are we going to go with? The one 2 weeks before or a week before the election, or the one from a couple of months ago?
No, and Nigel can be manipulated because he's a narcissist, and that's why the joy of someone putting a picture up of him suddenly. So yeah, all of that's concerning. Yeah.
I mean, see, is Reform a party or is it a cult? Is it a cult around that? I think it's a cult of Nigel. I'll be honest, because I've had people, I interact with some people, as you know, and some of them take grave offence at criticising Nigel. Why? I mean, he's not the Pope. We're allowed to criticize him. And sometimes he deserves criticism. Sometimes he deserves praise. But I've noticed this tendency. People put their fingers in their ears and they won't hear a bad word about him, even though things that he said are very problematical. So I'm not into cults either. So again, moral for Katie Hopkins: be careful you don't get yourself caught up in a cult that doesn't even like you. But anyway, move on.
Exactly. Now, Nigel likes to think of himself as a figure in the mold of President Trump. And this is what Trump has been putting out. You said
Yeah.
trolling.
Yeah.
Trump store launches 2028 hats to tease third term as president. And there's Eric Trump wearing one of them. And there's on the Trump store.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now people have floated this idea. It doesn't seem to be possible. But I think Trump just wants to also have a little bit of fun. When you see this, you don't see this with politicians. With Trump, you do. And that's why people really, really do like him.
It's absolutely superb. It's master grade trolling. And actually, to be fair to Elon Musk, I think Elon's put up a post in the past day with Trump 2032 in terms of let's let's really go for it. That would be Trump's fourth term or fifth term. So yeah, look, it's a bit of humor. I don't think that there's any way Donald Trump will be standing in 2028. I don't think so. At that age, he probably wouldn't want to. But the fact that he can have a laugh at it, and then the best bit is that I was thinking the Daily Mail that was from Peter. The mainstream media then they take the bait. Oh my God, he's going to declare himself a tyrant, president in perpetuity. And that's what. So when Musk stuck up that when the 2028 one's good, the 2032 one's good as well. And I just think it's funny because it won't happen, but I just love the triggering.
It really is. It really is fun. I've heard others say that actually Trump could be VP to David to Vance, whatever he is running, and then they swap over. And again, who knows? It's, I don't know, 5D chess.
It's good stuff.
It is good stuff. Let me go with what's happening over in Ukraine and Russia. And this is what President Trump had tweeted. He's obviously been criticized for actually engaging with Putin and actually trying to get a peace deal. And here is I am not happy with the Russian strikes on Kiev. Not necessary and very bad timing. Vladimir, stop. 5,000 soldiers a week are dying. Let's get the peace deal done. Yeah. And it shows that Trump actually, if he gets on well with somebody, can have somebody, he can also criticize them and speak truth and wants peace. And yet I'm sure our European leaders, I'm sure, are in uproar and panic. Keir Starmer certainly says, oh, it's up to Ukraine. Well, no, someone has to call this out, and Trump is the one.
The President Trump's been incredibly even-handed in this matter, Peter. The day before this, over on Truth Social, he also put out another tweet basically saying that Zelensky was an incredible obstacle and incredibly unhelpful in trying to get to the peace deal. And he got criticized for that. And even though everything he said was absolutely right, for Zelensky to say Crimea, we can't even discuss Crimea. It's just, it's just arrant nonsense. It's been Russian on since what, in the 1700s up until 1954. And even then it was given back when it was a Soviet republic. So, and anyway, it's been Russia have occupied it from 2014. It's all over. But to be fair to Trump, he really called out Zelensky, which I love to see through social. But then you've just put an equally perfectly valid post up on True Social. He also had a go at Putin, and I think and of course that's not given any publicity by our media. They don't want to talk about that aspect. Donald Trump is desperate to get a deal and stop the killing. He's totally consistent in this one, but he's dealing with. I think not so much maybe on the Russian side, but you mentioned the Europeans, Starmer and von der Leyen and all. I think they don't want a peace. They don't want the end of the conflict, and they whisper in Zelensky's ears, and then he says more stupid stuff. But ultimately, I think a deal will be done. There was news today, Peter, that the mayor of Kiev, the mayor of Kiev, he came out and he said, well, we might have to give up some land temporarily, for about 1,000 years. And that's the first time a senior Ukrainian official has actually even tacitly said, right, okay, well, maybe stuff is going to have to be let go. And that's the truth. And so I hope there's a deal done. Like, I'm sure, like you, Peter, like everyone watching this, we want to see lives, 5,000 lives a week. Doesn't matter if they're Ukrainian or Russian. It's awful. And it has to end. The only people who want it to keep going to me is the grifter Zelensky and his European allies. And I hope Donald Trump can pull this one off. And I'm sure if he does, he'll not get any praise for it. But it will be a monumental achievement and a tribute to Donald Trump rather than the other parties.
It will, because there was no peace deal on the table. And I think the leaders forget that history is written by the victors. And this is how war works, that if you've got one side that wins, then they set the terms, and often land is part of that. So it will have to be one of the terms. And maybe Ukraine will learn not to poke the bear after this.
But do you not also think, like, one of the biggest myths for me in this is that Ukraine can stand alone? The only reason that Ukraine has been able to stand at all is because of U.S. military power, armaments, and intelligence. That's what's propped Ukraine up. I mean, I just see the whole thing as it's a complete farce. From 2014 to 2020. Well, to this year, the U.S. was backing Zelensky and Ukraine and propping it up. Those couple of days when Donald Trump withdrew armaments and intelligence, you could see almost instantly Ukraine started to wobble. It's an artificial edifice secured by U.S. military power, and so yes, things have to change. And if there's anyone can do it, it's President Trump, and I completely support him.
Absolutely. Well, let's move on to a revelation here in the UK. That was the Supreme Court ruling telling us what a man is and what a woman is. And I'm so glad that Keir Starmer has now understood the question, what is a woman? But here are two short clips from the UK of two MPs. And it's very sad to watch. This one about being misgendered. It is really quite sad. So you may need to watch away for this minute. But here is Kate Osborne, MP.
I'm frequently misgendered, and I do not mean occasionally. It's a weekly occurrence. In January, I was misgendered 3 times in 1 2-hour train journey. I've been misgendered by staff of this house. Misgendered whilst buying some jeans last week. It's genuinely a frequent issue for me and a number of my lesbian friends. I note the ministers yesterday saying that there will be guidance regarding the Supreme Court verdict, but actually that decision will have a huge impact on my life and many other cis lesbians and indeed heterosexual women. I suspect I will get challenged even more now when accessing facilities. And whilst the impact on my life will be problematic, the impact on my trans siblings' lives is...
Now, I'll hold you. I want to play another short clip, a 40-second clip from Preston. And let me bring this up. And this adds to the poor confusion. This individual doesn't even know which toilet to use. So you can imagine how confused she is. Well, here's Carla Denver, I think a Green MP.
The government needs to urgently clarify how it intends to interpret this court ruling. And that really is on the government, not on the court. It's created uncertainty for business owners. It's creating uncertainty for trans, non-binary and intersex people who are wondering, well, what is it that I'm meant to do then? And imagine how unsettling it must be to not know which toilet you're meant to be going to be afraid of being confronted, being challenged by perhaps, it might not even be the staff that work somewhere. It might be.
Or move. I can't imagine that, David. I mean, have you ever? You look at the toilet and you know which one to go to. It's so sad.
Those are the best clips. Those are brilliant clips. I'd seen the Carla Daniel one, but the previous one, that's hilarious stuff. I mean, she's being misgendered. Was it 2 to 3 times in an hour? That's incredible. I mean, I don't know what sort of people are in Parliament. I mean, these are mentally unwell people, as far as I can see. On the one hand, for the Green Party co-leader to suggest that we need clarity. No, the Supreme Court decision was the clarity. It's simple. Sex is immutable. It's what you are at birth. It never changes. The end. That's it. And so no, we need clarity in that one. Well, no, you don't need clarity in that one. What you need to do is actually, waking up and smell the coffee. There's 2 sexes, 2 genders, the end. And as for that individual, the first one that you showed, who that was a brilliant clip. I just now was comedy. There's little I can say other than that. I mean, she actually looked relatively female by Labour Party standards. She looked
short hair. That's all.
Short hair, yeah. So I'm not sure that she was overtly malish. There's a few others I could name that maybe would be more likely to be misgendered. But you can't be, misgendered. Even that language, we have to take apart all this language. The Supreme Court's made its decision. Now we need to repeal the 2004 Gender Recognition Act. We need to rip up every gender recognition certificate. We need to stop the mental illness, the insanity that's gripped this country in particular, and the Supreme Court decision allows us a means to do that. And a final point, I'd be very sad if I was married to Keir Starmer. I'd be very sad anyway. But could you imagine Mrs. Starmer having to hear from her husband that it took the Supreme Court to let him know what a woman was? I mean, surely, is that not grounds for divorce? I mean, they've been married, they've got kids, but he still doesn't know what a woman is. What? Until the Supreme Court told him? Are you kidding me? So, I mean, this is a massive defeat for the woke left. That's the truth of that. That's what it is. More than half of the people in the Labour benches believe that trans women are women. And now we know, and we always did know, that they're not. They're men. And they never will be women, and that's it. And so the amount of U-turns executed on Labour benches, it's been like, at Bram's Hatch on a race day. The incredible, I mean, they all dressed in pink. These harridans were dressed in pink on the Labour benches, all declaring we always stood with women when they actually betrayed women, all of them, for so many years. And now they're trying to swivel on it and say, oh, no, we always supported women, but we need to support our trans siblings. The language, it's insane language, isn't it? I mean, that's why they say they aren't mentally ill.
Cis trans siblings, no, they are. It was funny, actually, the comment on the Labour MP Kate Osborne, the misgendered one. The first comment I saw underneath was Lilani Dowding, who said, bullshit. And I'm thinking, Lilani, I'm sure, has never been misgendered.
I'm sure she hasn't. No, absolutely not. I mean, these are very strange people, but it's been a very trying week for them, and I'm sure they've been crying in their closets. But I'm happy for real. I'm happy for J.K. Rowling. I'm happy for the Scottish women who brought the legal case in the Supreme Court. I'm happy for all of them. I'm happy for every woman and every girl who can go into their own spaces without these very disturbed blokes coming in and trying to be present there. I'm happy for them, and the others will just have to take the chances.
Well, I just feel for Carla. If Carla Denier's out for the day, I mean, she can't even use a toilet because
there's no guidance. There's no guidance. But of course, think about this. Someone asked me this as well. The strange thing here is that most facilities will, public pubs and restaurants will have like ladies and gents facilities. So what's the problem? The facilities are there. You know which one to go to. And if you don't, then really you shouldn't even be out in public. You should be probably going under some form of therapy.
Well, I would actually suggest that if you don't know what gender you are and don't know which toilet to use, maybe you should be using a potty because you're at that level of development.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, good one.
Right. Let's touch on military and a Labour government telling us they're going to increase up to 3%. And this was a telling post that you'd reposted, and
Yeah.
going through the Royal Navy, the ships, and you see in blue they're deployed. I think CSG is Carrier Strike Group, so they're out somewhere. And then you've got it goes green. Obviously, they're just in for a refit, for workup, for maintenance, and then it goes on to red. And some of these ships are in for 4 years. They're sitting
Yeah.
there.
Seen that.
I mean, this must make the enemy really scared, David, that all our ships are just sitting, getting tweaked, and some of them are only years old, and they're in for refurbishments. And this is a snapshot of the degradation, I think, of our military.
It is, Peter, and it's a damning indictment of successive British governments because this has been going on for a long time, and it's very poignant because the Royal Navy. We talk about rule the waves. The Royal Navy did literally do that. It was a remarkable entity, a remarkable force for good. It ended the slave trade. It did so much good, and in the World Wars, especially World War II, played a monumentally important role. And you look at that. I looked at that, as you said. Some of those have been in for years. The Royal Navy's been completely degraded, rather, and of course the British Army similarly, and indeed the Royal Air Force, and that's because we've had generations of politicians who play lip service to it but don't invest. We should be investing in our armed forces. Armed forces, they help defend our country. The primary role of government is to defend its citizens, but that's not the case. So whenever you hear Starmer talk about, he's going to have his force, his peacekeeping force going to Ukraine, who's going to be a man in an ice cream van is going to be going there? I mean, we don't even have a military. We're talking about, and it's shameful. And I would like us to have a military. I'm sure you would as well. But when you see that the Royal Navy chart, I couldn't believe the numbers in it. I couldn't believe that. Actually, if you wanted to go to see the fleet, go round the Clyde, go to Devonport, and go to Portsmouth, and you'll see them in the fitting yards. That's where they are. You won't see the fleet at sea. Very unlikely to see them at sea, but because they're all in for repair. Shocking indictment, isn't it?
Oh, it is. It's so bad. And then some of the ships have been taken out of service because we don't have enough sailors. So it's just across the board. And you're right, failure of both so-called
Yeah.
Conservative and Labour. But you had posted something, and I hadn't seen this, and this is shocking news for everyone who has salad to eat. This is really concerning. Huge surge in stomach bug linked to tainted salad could explain explosion of colon cancer in young people.
Yeah.
Disturbing new study suggests. That sentence makes no sense to me whatsoever. And then on the right, you've got a little picture of what it is if you've got severe diarrhea on your stomach or fever, you hold your head. But no, it's just, David, this is devastating that a leaf of lettuce could actually give us cancer.
Well, I mean, we've tracked down the culprit. The reason for the increase in these cancers in young people is salad. I mean, talk about gaslighting. I think I did put out.
Yes.
I can think of another explanation. Injection. But this is what we talked about during 2021 and 2022. You're injecting young people with experimental gene therapies, and then a couple of years later, guess what? And you talk to. I listened to a doctor talking about finding cancer in 8 and 9-year-olds, Peter, really unheard of. And then someone comes along, well, it's the Daily Mail again, and comes up, which is where I go to get ultimate gaslighting, and it's salads to blame. Yeah, definitely salads to blame. That's the science talking to you there, Peter. You can't argue with that. Those salad leaves are evidently going to be much more dangerous to you than taking an experimental mRNA gene therapy, for sure. So couldn't believe that one. But I mean, it's also it's slightly evil, isn't it? Because the cancer is a serious issue, and for young people, it's awful. And yet they're saying, it's salad. No, it's not salad. It's really, really not salad. And the thing that it is the thing that they don't want to talk about, and that's why you have to keep talking about it.
I'm just so glad I talked about health officials have said and not health experts. So I'm just not an expert.
Trust the officials.
And there was even part of it that said it has led to 9 people dying. I'm thinking, so it gives you cancer, but you could just drop down dead very quickly after eating this dodgy, dangerous lettuce. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
wow.
It make me think twice before I have a salad because I mean, it could be instant death. So maybe stick to steak.
Exactly. Well, much better that we eat chemicals and eat food that has been sprayed by everything. But let let's move on to another conspiracy theory, or so we were told. And this is the sun. Experiments to dim the sun will be approved within weeks. Scientists consider brightening clouds to reflect sunshine among ways to prevent runaway climate change. Um, they spent 50 million. So
Yeah.
the government Advanced Research and Invention Funding Agency. I didn't know what that was, but they've set aside 50 million for these projects. Um, so yeah, I didn't think we needed to dim the sun. Obviously, you do in Northern Ireland, there, David. I can see that, but I
Yeah.
didn't think we needed it.
Yeah, I need the sun dimmed above me, but this is insane level stuff. And this is really insane level stuff. So the UK, a country which is not known for getting excessive amounts of sun, they're going to try and dim the sun, even as the UK government spends billions on solar energy. So. So there's a contradiction to start with. You like choose a side. What do you want to do? Dim the sun or have solar energy? Well, apparently they want both. But in the second instance, the way they're going to do it, did you read the it's all about essentially cloud spraying, geoengineering, which was up until this article apparently a conspiracy theory, and now yeah, it's been proven. Yeah, they actually do want to do that. They want to spray the clouds so the clouds deflect the sunlight. Uh,
They said injecting aerosols into the atmosphere.
yes.
Oh, I'm sure that'll go down well. Let's do that. Spray
Yeah,
chemicals into the atmosphere.
nothing could go wrong with that. Nothing could go wrong. There's no way that could lead to, let's say, I don't know, a complete global wipeout, an apocalypse. These people are insane, but they got 50 million pounds of our taxes from the government to go and do this. And I mean, clearly the whole thing from start to finish, it's demented. But isn't it interesting that last July, whenever Starmer was elected, one of the first people to go and visit him was Mr. Bill Gates.
Yeah.
Mr. Bill Gates, who is an enthusiastic advocate for dimming the sun. So call me a conspiracy theorist, but Uncle Bill goes in to see Starmer last summer, and now 8 months on or whatever, or 9 months on, we have the British government saying, yeah, we're funding a pilot to see if we can dim the sun. And I mean, the other thing is, someone pointed out to me, Peter, again, something that many of us will know instinctively. If you go to countries like, say, Sweden, the Nordic countries, where they get less sunlight than even than we do, there's a lot of depression, a lot of suicides because people are starved of light. And yet, that's what these monsters are planning for us. Yeah, let's starve is it the Brits or is it the world they want to starve of light? I don't know. But, I mean, everyone involved in this is, as far as I'm concerned, either institutionally insane, which is one thing, or just sheer evil. And you
Yeah.
can just choose which one. But, I mean, as I say, you can't dim the sun and have solar energy as our future. You can't do that. So someone needs to have a chat with Ed Miliband quickly.
Well, we'll finish off with Ed Miliband. Let's touch on the Pope and his death. And this is a Lara Logan post, which was, I heard lots of criticism of this, but she says, watching the coverage of the Pope's death is excruciating. There not a single newscaster honest enough to say this Pope had a controversial legacy, and while millions across the world mourn, there are also millions of believers who feel he betrayed them and God. That's a fair enough comment.
Yes, I completely agreed with Lara Logan. I mean, the legacy media has eulogized Pope Francis. And look, I am sorry that for my Roman Catholic friends that the leader of their church has died. I sympathize with them and all of that. But honestly, there's too much sugarcoating going on here. This was the same guy who basically said that anti-vaxxers are going to hell. Yeah. This is the same guy who's in favor of open borders apart from the Vatican City, which must have its big wall and Swiss Guard. This is the same guy who was in favor of climate change ideology, the net zero and nonsense. This was a very problematical pontiff. And so are we not allowed to talk about that? And obviously not, because those positions align with the mainstream media's position, and hence the eulogizing. So on a general level, and then from a UK level, Peter, I have to say, the UK is not a Roman Catholic country. We're not. The head of our church, we're an Anglican, we are a Protestant country, and as a practicing Protestant, I don't like the fact that we're being essentially gaslit into essentially being, neo-Roman Catholics. I wish Roman Catholics well. I don't. I have got issues with their particular ideology, and but yet everyone apparently is sad because Pope Francis is dead. I hope that they pick a better successor. I've written an article over on my Substack. Pope Sarah would be a good guy.
Yes.
Just because of the name. A really good guy from Guinea, Robert Sarah. Very good, seems conservative, aligned with a lot of values we would all have. I hope they get him in place, even though Pope Francis has stacked the conclave against that. 88% of the cardinals who will be voting are there because of Pope Francis. So it's I agree with Lara Logan, and it's one of these ones where you put, I felt inclined, not inclined, but I had to say what I believe, and I'm sorry he's dead, but I didn't. I think he was a disaster for Roman Catholic Church, and I've got Roman Catholic friends who think the same. His Marxist ideology, the fact that didn't he hang out with the Perrons back in the day? People know that, and I think he was basically a world-class hypocrite. But he's dead now, and let's hope that the Roman Catholic Church does better.
Well, they've got a chance to elect a good leader, just as the Anglican Church have got a chance to elect a good leader after.
Vacancy for both, Peter. Maybe you should apply.
I know. We could pick one each and split it. We need to find 130 cardinals to vote for us.
Buy them all. Yeah.
I don't know if that's possible. Let's finish on Ed Miliband. And this is, it was Bernie put this up, and she said this is a car crash interview. And it seems that Ed Miliband does not understand how taxes work, and that there's some magical thing about energy. So here is, it actually 2 minutes. We'll see if we can play most of it. Here's Ed Miliband's wisdom explaining Economics 101.
Energy companies in this country are taxed at 78% on energy profits. That pushes up prices too.
No, that's wrong. Look,
it's not 78%?
It is 78%, but it's not incredible.
Whereas obviously regular corporate tax is 25%.
It's really important to make this point. Oil and gas is set, the price of oil and gas is set on the international market. The reason why...
That's the raw commodity price, in the same way that the prices of batteries is set on the raw, the raw commodity price.
It's not set by the tax rate on UK companies, is what I'm saying. It's set by the global price. You see,
I understand that, but you're saying that tax rates don't impact pricing?
I'm saying that in relation to oil and gas, they don't, because the truth is that the price for our oil and gas is set internationally. And let me explain, if you just let me make the point. Why did prices go through the roof when Russia invaded Ukraine? Right, well, our prices went through the roof, even though we imported a very small amount from Russia. That's because whether the gas was coming from the North Sea or internationally, it was priced on the international market. That's why we're in the grip of fossil fuel markets controlled by others, petrostates, and that wasn't about the UK tax rate. The UK tax rate could have been cut or higher, and it wouldn't have made an impact.
That's a separate point.
Yeah.
The floating price of commodities is a legitimate but separate point. Another point for why this country has unbelievably high energy prices is that we tax our energy companies.
You're wrong. I'm really sorry, but you're wrong about that because the price is set internationally. I'm really sorry, but that's not correct.
Okay, well, let's put commodities aside. If you increase taxes on supermarkets to 78%...
It depends whether
if you increase taxes on supermarkets to 78%, what would happen to the price of food?
It depends.
What would happen to the price of food?
It depends whether it's a domestic market, where the price is set domestically.
This is a globally unquestionable factor about economics. You're right that your point also applies. You can't flatly deny my point.
I am denying your point when it comes to the question of these internationally set prices. That's the point I'm making.
If you lowered the tax of 78% on energy companies to the regular...
On oil and gas companies, it wouldn't make a difference to the price. In fact...
Yes, it would.
I'm afraid it wouldn't because the point is that the price is set internationally.
But there are lots of things that factor into the price that we pay. The lots of supply chain.
So he doesn't seem to understand.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't get economics. This is the problem with socialists. If socialists understood economics, they wouldn't be socialists. And this guy just said the most ludicrous thing ever. Well, if Ed is right, then how come energy prices are different all over the world? How come all over Europe? How come the UK is the most expensive energy prices in the developed world? It's because he 78% tax on the actual the power. So he didn't get it, did he? He didn't understand there's a connection between. But then, I mean, I would argue that Rachel Reeves doesn't understand in the same regard the impact of when you hike up taxes, you don't get good outcomes. But Miliband is sitting there, and that was a very good interview. That I enjoyed that one, only insofar as it demonstrated his complete lack of just basic economics. And that wouldn't matter if he wasn't the energy secretary, but he is. And therefore, it does matter.
It worries me, Rachel Reeves over in the US at the moment, at the World Bank conference there, and trying to negotiate a deal for us. Oh my goodness. I mean, the only worst thing would be if Ed was with her as well and they were around the table. It would be the worst trade deal ever.
Yeah. Well, I mean, her trade. I don't know what sort of a trade deal she's trying to get. I think she sort of said that she's hoping to get one, but she would rather get a deal with the European Union. She's on record as saying that as well. So again, this British government seeks to be, like sort of two-headed. It wants to look at this in two different ways at the same time. It really can't. But the thing about Labour administrations is they all end in financial tears. The last one did in 2010. I can remember back to Harold Wilson and James Callaghan in 1978. It's always the same. They just don't get the basic stuff. And in this particular administration, it's really bad because I don't think there's anybody, Peter, in the cabinet who's worked in private business, like no one. And that has consequences. And Ed Miliband's lamentable, he probably thought he did really well, actually. That's the most sad bit of all of it. But it was funny to watch that.
It's depressingly funny. So we'll leave on that. David, as always, thanks so much for coming on. There's always so much to discuss and always good to catch up.
Thanks very much, Peter. Good to be here.